Welcome back to the Hive, and today we're going to be talking about values and behaviours, and to do that welcome back Lorna Leeson and Jo Dodds. And I guess the challenging question, and I'm sure many of us might be on the receiving end of this question, is surely we just need to put values and behaviours onto the back burner for the time being? Don't we just ignore them in the current climate and focus on survival and just doing the things that we need to do to get through this together? So the question really, and I'll ask you, Lorna, first, are values and behaviours an unnecessary luxury in the current climate?
What do you think I'm going to say?
Yes, and then we'll finish the video.
Don't need them.
Yeah, that's it then. Off we go. Next topic.
Yeah, we talked about this from day one. If you want, the thing that is rallying people in organisations and creating trust and calming people down and helping them focus and therefore still deliver results is a connection to organisational purpose, and your values are how we deliver to our purpose. Your behaviours are how you bring your values to life day to day. So there's that strong thread doesn't change. How you do things and the things that are important to you as you do them are almost even more important when the stuff that you're talking about is human lives, health, making decisions that really impact the whole of human beings, ethical decisions that are really hard. You don't throw your values and behaviours out the window just because you've got some really tough decisions to make. In fact, that's why you have them in the first place.
You beat me to it there. That's exactly what I was just going to say, that last bit as well. I mean, if they're well defined, if you've gone through a process of clearly defining what your values are, and they are robust and they are there to help deliver your organisational purpose or strategy, then they are absolutely what will guide your decision making and your behaviours. If, on the other hand, your organisational values were kind of dreamt up in a jacuzzi on a weekend away day, or were still imported from the CEO's previous company, lock, stock and barrel,
pulled out of a hat,
or the values bingo, then yeah, they are simply words on a poster. And when they're like that, they've never served any useful purpose when they're just like that. And so at the moment they don't. So maybe the time is to say, well, if that's the sort of value set you have, maybe the time is right to review and reconsider and think about, are they fit for purpose and do we need some new ones? Jo, what's your take on?
If you think about the whole organisational integrity piece that we talk about at Engage for Success around the 4 enablers employee engagement, the whole point is that is how things are supposed to be around here. And if push comes to shove and they're not how things are around here, as you've said, then that's, they're the wrong, because it's not really even about defining it. It's what you're saying about behaviours, Lorna, isn't it? It's about, if the way we do stuff around here is this, it should carry on being this, whatever else is going on around us, because that's who we are. But if there's that difference, if it all goes horribly wrong, then you realise, as you just said, Jo, that they were dreamed up and they were aspirational values maybe, but they've never been the real values of the organisation, as exhibited by that sort of behaviour. And so I guess people, will find out at the moment, if they haven't already, whether their values are actually consistent, or their values and behaviours are consistent with what they thought, by how they're behaving now, in a crisis. If you remember, we talked, I think, on one of the other videos about an organisation years ago saying to us at Engage for Success that they were going through a restructure, and so they were going to stop all their engagement activity while they did the restructure. And it was just like a head in hands moment, that's when you need to ramp it up, not stop it. And it's the same principle, isn't it? That if you've got the right values and behaviours and you're exhibiting them all the time, then they help you to get through these difficult times. You don't actually pause them and behave in a different manner.
We must just comment on the fact that you're sitting outside in the garden at the moment, Jo, because really this will position this particular episode of the Hive forevermore as the middle of our unbelievable heat wave in the UK.
Yes, exactly. So that only
Nice
happened
to
for a
see
few days.
flexible working to the nth degree.
This is the only way I'd be able to
Indeed.
do any work. If I was in the house, I'd be sort of lying on the floor,
Yeah,
traumatized.
and we are treating you like an individual, Jo, and being absolutely fine with that being how you need to work today.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
If only I'd got my clothes adjusted properly. There you go. Looks better now.
You know how I feel about the concept of professionalism. So I think the thing that is really interesting, what we've just been saying though, and I was reflecting as you were talking, is that these times are a bit of a stress test for values. And so it's really easy. Let's take the value that I think a lot of businesses have, which is we care about our people are important to us. That might be in, values bingo. It's quite an easy one to shove in. And it's easy for that to feel lived in an organisation in times of steadiness and security and growth. And if that is your value and it's felt like one because it's been easy to adhere to it, and now you're having to restructure or make some tough decisions, then now's the time to go, well, if we really do believe that, how do we make these decisions with that value at its heart? Because if we're not doing that, we should probably chuck it in the bin.
But it doesn't mean that you have to hold back from making tough decisions, because God knows, every organisation, business has to make tough decisions at some point or other, and now is absolutely clearly where that's going on. But it can guide how you make that decision. It can guide how you treat people who are going to be impacted by those decisions, and how, rather than it just paying lip service to it, in which case it then does become very shallow and very hollow and very, very easily seen as being just words on the wall.
Yeah, and I'll give you a live example from today, actually. So I've had a real variety, like crop up a pick a mix of a day today, but a conversation about whether or not 2P applied earlier on today. And it was getting quite technical and getting quite commercial. And then I said, let's just stand back and look at this from the human point of view. What's the impact of doing these following these 2 or 3 different routes that we're talking about on the individual? And is that going to guide our thinking in any way here? And should it? And we all agreed, actually, yes, it should. And it helped clarify the decision, and it was easier to make a decision as to what we did next. And it kind of cut a lot of the theoretical toing and throwing back and forth, because it refocused you on a guiding principle that everyone could adhere to. And isn't that one of the kind of key purposes of values?
Absolutely. We always talk about how values without behaviours are meaningless, because it's the behaviours that are the practical demonstration of those values being lived. But also that behaviours aren't a straitjacket. They're not a rigid, you must do this way, you must do this way. They are a kind of guidelines, they're a framework, they're a sort of moral compass, practical compass, I don't know, call it what you like, guiding light to help guide those decisions, rather than rigidly sort of force people down a particular route and create a whole load of corporate clones, because that clearly isn't the right way. So if you need to look at your values and ask yourself, well, are they fit for purpose, then that again, I think, gives us the opportunity to remember the need to talk to our people, because a good set of organisational values on the one hand has to support your purpose and your strategic direction, but they have to be grounded in truths. They have to be grounded in truths about the business that are relevant and meaningful to your audiences, your people, your external audiences and your internal audiences. And I would argue as well that they should have some ambition in them and some headroom for growth, so that they don't have to be 100% true everywhere, but you need to be able to sort of see that these are being lived and demonstrated in certain places and give people something to aim towards. And what better way to capture an input to that process than to talk to your people and listen to employee voice and see what your distill and assess what your workforce believe to be the values that make your organisation effective, and that they can align themselves to.
Absolutely. And to see that as being so important that it cuts through all of the sort of challenge at the moment, because that, you could argue, is one of the reasons that people would say, let's put that to one side and just make difficult decisions by sort of bulldozing through it because we haven't got time to consult people. But actually, as we know, and we talked about when we were looking at things like redundancy, quite often including the people that are going to be affected in these discussions actually gets you a much better result all round at the end of it. So I guess that could be one of the reasons why people would say they're not going to sort of take employee voice on board, because it just elongates a process or makes it more complicated or whatever. But like we've said, the sort of benefit of doing that is so much, you know, it should sort of overbalance. I can't even explain what I'm trying to say, but you know, it should be more important. Counterbalance it, or whatever,
But of course, it doesn't take that long now to listen to employee voice with so much kit and tech and everything around. It's very easy to get a sense of what matters to people very, very, very quickly. So are we of a view? No, do not throw your values and behaviours out with the COVID-19 bathwater.
Yeah, see, we could have said that at the beginning and stopped the video. We knew that.
No, in fact, that could be our new approach. 30-second guidance from the Hive team. No, don't do that.
That's
next
wrong.
week.
Now people have listened to us and built some trust around it. We can just give them the answer.
The answer is no. Please move on. I can see why people are asking the question, because we are still, in fact, we are more than ever, and I think this is what we're going to move on to talk to in the next episode. But we're more than ever doing the COVID conga around the room, and some people feel like they're at the tail ends of it, getting thrown off, to stretch my ridiculous analogy even further.
That's a great analogy. I love it.
The COVID conga, you heard it here first.
It'll be one of those bingo words soon. Everyone will be using it, but for now, it's very unique.
And I'm going to little TM it. So it's my IP. I just think it's really easy to feel overwhelmed and to think we haven't got time to do that. That's peripheral, but it is a really helpful compass by which to make some very difficult decisions and to route you all. And when in times of stress, when people are kind of fragmented and in their own little tunnel visions, it actually does help cut through the noise and go, all right, we do all agree this though, so therefore this is how we can proceed. So they will aid you, not hinder you.
Lovely. Lorna, Jo, as always, great insight. Thank you very much. The answer is no. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.